I'm working here in classic quizzes, and one of the strengths of quizzes here is to be able to provide feedback to students. Now, this is a multiple choice question. There are many options, but when you're working in these, you'll see you can select a different correct answer. You can provide feedback. The red boxes mean that's feedback on a wrong answer. Green boxes would be feedback on a correct answer. And at the very bottom is green, red, and gray. These will be given to all students. Uh, this will be all students who answer correctly will see that. All students who answer wrong will see that. And this will be something seen by all students, whether they got it right or wrong. So you can provide feedback on individual items or on the overall question. So when you're putting together things like this particular one here, I can provide feedback on the answers from these boxes down here. If a question is known to be somewhat confusing, that students will tend to get it wrong, I can provide some more detailed feedback on this one. Like this, I've provided feedback on why each of the wrong answers is wrong, and a general answer comment that all students will see as sort of a reinforcement of the concept being covered by the question. So this provides immediate feedback to the student on why they got a question wrong. I can provide feedback on questions that they got right as well, and I can provide general feedback overall on the to all students on any particular question from the general answer comments down here. So that's just a quick look at the classic quizzes. That's what I'm using here. These are classic. This is a classic quiz. I still do not recommend using new quizzes. They still do not report their outcomes to the outcomes data bank. Also, I would note that I don't usually compose questions from the quizzes screen itself. I actually tend to compose things. Come down here and come out of this guy. I actually go back to quizzes, and I have the same options, but I do all my composing in the question banks. I've got quite a number of question banks, but this one has 164 questions. I actually do my composing here in the question banks, and I still have the same options I have there. Feedback for correct answers, overall right, wrong, and gray. Here you can see I've got an exact answer. There's no error allowed. They must answer 4.5. Nothing else will be accepted. This is a numeric question type with fill in the blank that the student will answer. And so these are linked. The question bank itself is linked to a, go to the very bottom. It is linked to one of my outcomes, and that allows from the institutional bank of outcomes. And so that allows me to, these questions report back to this outcome. This was pulled down into my outcomes from the institutional bank, aligned to the question bank, and then the question bank questions were pulled into quizzes. If I go back to a quiz like the one I was just looking at, the way I get my questions out of my bank is down at the, when I'm editing, at the very bottom, where I go to add a question. Instead of adding a question, oops, to back up, questions are on the second tab. At the very bottom, I go to find questions, and it opens up access to any of my question banks, so I can pull questions out of any of the banks I've got. You'll notice because of that, I have a coding system I put in place to help me keep track of questions I've developed for different terms, because this is the current terms question bank. That's right, that's the summer. That is one I'm currently using. That's the summer bank. If I generate some new questions, I'll wind up with adding them to this bank, and I'll relabel it so I know that these are the newest set. So this is our classic question structure. I just thought I'd show you that. You can provide a lot of feedback to a student on what they've gotten right and what they've gotten wrong, and through these options that appear, the correct feedback on a correct answer, feedback on the wrong answer, and feedback on an individual wrong answer if a student chooses that, why that's wrong, and it turns the quizzes into a more formative form of assessment than just a summative form of assessment. It allows the student to correct their understanding of that particular question, and that helps them in their learning process and learning curve. As I've said, tests do not test. Tests provide another opportunity to learn. I use other assessments to actually get at whether they're learning, such as giving them raw data and telling them what are the appropriate statistics to report those statistics, and what are the appropriate charts, produce the appropriate charts, and explain why you're using those statistics and those charts. That's how I'm actually doing assessment. Tests don't test. They're just another opportunity for the students to learn the concepts in the course. Thanks for watching. If you have questions, let me know. If you need to see a more detailed video, let me know. I'll link at the bottom a video on pulling those outcomes down for rubrics and for question banks. Again, I'm working in classic quizzes. If you have wound up starting to use new quizzes don't report back, but you can reset your quiz engine choice here, and then the next time you go to set up a quiz, it will ask you which engine you want to use, and I always use classic quizzes. I've actually never checked remember my choice. I like to each time select classic quizzes so that should the day come when new quizzes are really ready for prime time, I can use them. You can use new quizzes, but you may find some issues, and you will have issues with reporting outcomes. You can't report outcomes out of new quizzes currently. It remains a problem. And that's all for this video. Again, please ask any questions you might have. Happy to help.